attend this town center community forum. I want to let each of you know how we appreciate you taking that time. Um, I'm Ricky Barker. I'm the Director of Community Planning and Development Services. I'm joined with multi-department staff from Tim Chestnut, Craig Semino, our housing, our recreation and parks and public works director, as well as representatives from the housing and community development and our communication staff, and last but not least, several members of the city council. And I'd like to turn it over to the mayor to provide a welcome, and then turn it over to Mark to add his comments. Councilmember Pachella. All right, thank you, Mayor.
Sure. Thanks, Ricky, and welcome everybody. This is a great opportunity for us to hear from you. I see Councilmember Dr. Miles on as well. And I know that Councilmember Feinberg was unavailable this evening, and Councilmember Ashton is traveling, but she may be able to hop on later. But I just wanted to welcome you all, and please tell us what you think. We really want to hear your thoughts about Town Center. So enjoy.
Councilmember Mark Pershela, you can't believe how important Town Center is to the whole city of Rockville. It is your neighborhood, yes, absolutely. But it has been, problematic over the decades to have a thriving town center. And we want your opinions. We need your input. And this is such an incredible, important part of Rockville. It is not only your neighborhood, but it's everybody's neighborhood. And when I'm knocking on doors, or when the other candidates are knocking on doors, we could be in the farthest reaches of Rockville and people will say, how's Town Center doing? So this is an incredibly important town hall meeting, and we appreciate your attendance and your input. Thank you.
Councilmember Dr. Miles, would you like to say something?
Thanks for having me, and thanks for hosting this. I do look forward to hearing from you all. I think that you all, the residents and community, on this very vital topic. Town Center is one of the main reasons that we chose to move here years ago. That's a place we visit frequently, not just for city council meetings, but just to go grab ice cream, get exercise. It is the heartbeat of the city, and we want to make sure we do all we can to make it thrive. I think it's very critical that we hear from you, stakeholders, on this. So I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Dr. Miles. And I also wanted to mention we are joined by our Rockville Economic Development, Inc., Cindy Rivard and Rochelle Wilson joining us, because, as you know, our economic development and thriving downtown is one of our goals. So we're glad they're here, as well as Susan Prince, a member of the Ready board. So are there any other?
Yeah, and Cindy's on too, Executive Director of Ready. Cindy Rivard is on too.
Yes, most definitely. Thank you, Cindy and Michelle, for being here. Also want to recognize our city manager, Rob DeSpirito. Do you have any words, Rob?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Ricky, and good evening, everybody. Rob DeSpirito, my privilege to be city manager for this fantastic community. You know, I can attest to the degree to which the mayor and council and staff like you really care about Town Center. And we also really care what you think. So we wanted to host this opportunity to really listen tonight. We're looking forward to hearing your feedback, your comments, your ideas. We need you as a partner in solutions, whether you're a merchant or a property owner, a resident or a visitor. We need you all. And we ultimately, I think, can agree that we're seeking the best that we can do in terms of a walkable, safe, attractive, active, and fun town center. One that's very viable, sustainable, one that will really be the heart, continue to be a strong heart for this community. So again, thank you all for coming, and we look forward to listening to you.
Thank you, Mr. DeSpirito. And with that, I want to share my screen to provide a brief presentation, just to inform you of all the things that the mayor and council and the city are doing to facilitate a thriving town center. Okay, just a second. Okay, there we go. Okay. All right. So there's two purposes. The mayor and council, requested that we have this town center forum. We want to hear from you, like the mayor and council members have said.
Yes.
And so we want to provide some of the initiatives that the town center, that we're doing in the town center. Back in November of 2018, following another town hall forum, which was well attended, over 400 people, the council made a determination that they truly want to respond to what they heard. And so we, as a city, put tremendous efforts and resources toward this effort since 2018. And tonight I will provide some of the completed items and some of the future items that the city is moving forward with. But most important, tonight we want to hear from you. First of all, you will be breaking up in a couple of small groups so that we can provide an opportunity for everyone to be heard. We want to hear your response to these questions. What are your comments and suggestions about these completed and future actions that I'm going to be presenting? What other issues that are not on the slide presentation that you feel like needs to be addressed or that you'd like to share? And then one of the important things that the mayor and council in the city would like to know is what your level of interest in forming a town center association. Many of our communities throughout the city have associations, and that's right now is missing from our town center association. I know that Trish Evans of the city staff is forming, working on the Village program, and has been successful in having a number of meetings to stir up interest in communication and coordination with each other. But we want to know a little bit more. Okay. Why is it jammed up? There we go. So the town center boundaries, I just want to make sure you're aware there's a difference between Rockville Town Square and the town center. The town center is the larger area that goes up almost to Montgomery College and southward to Veers Mill intersection. And so there's a pretty extensive number of residents, almost 6,000 residents in our town center, as well as a lot of valuable commercial and office users. And so Town Center Square is a separate one, separate area that's right in the core. So here's some of the areas that the town council, mayor and the town council have worked hard to do. So one of the big issues was the parking challenges in the town square. As you know, the city has 3 parking decks in the town center, and we want to provide an opportunity to work with the people that manage these parking decks, Fred, to offer 2 hours of free parking without validation, so you don't have to go through a lot of effort to go back and forth and get your parking sticker validated and things of that sort. So it made it a lot easier. Also, the mayor and council want to dedicate staff resources toward this, and so we did assign our Deputy Director of Community Planning and Development Services, along with our Rockville Economic Development Incorporated, Cindy Rivard and Rochelle Wilson, to team up to provide resources and assistance and actions in the town center and create a good business climate. Commission a retail study of the town center. That's another action the mayor and council put forth. We did bring in the Urban Land Institute that did a technical advisory committee. There were experts on from various disciplines that made some recommendations that actually have proven useful in a sense of such things as a road diet, which the mayor and council are moving ahead with. One of the important things with the town center, we want to promote, the downtown as a place, a presence of art, science, heritage, and culture. As you know, many of the mayor and town council city council members have stressed that this is the core of our city, and with that core, there's a lot of opportunities already existing for artwork in the town center. We mayor and council did approve a dedicated cultural arts and history position this past fiscal year, starting July 1st. We do, as a city, support VisArts. And good news is there's some potential opportunity for new parkland at 41 Maryland Avenue and the Betty Casey property, near Richard Montgomery High School. So stay tuned for more news on that. Potentially, we are applying to the state a program to establish an art and entertainment district in the town center. We also, Mayor and Council and the city has directed us to consider a town center task force of engaged merchants and residents. And that's one of the things that we want to talk about tonight with you and seeking that interest. One of the important things with business owners and people that are providing economic development, investing in our city, town center, we want to make sure the regulations are streamlined. And so one of the things, and also there's an opportunity to refresh the plans for town center. And so in the fall of 2022 of this year, the city staff is going to begin an update process of the town center plan. We also, with mayor and council support, is looking at a zoning ordinance rewrite beginning in the fall as well. And this would look at ordinances and things that might be getting in the way of activating the town center and bringing about the development that's desired through our comprehensive plan. Regular meetings with commercial and residential property owners. We are seeking that interest tonight from you. Developing an economic strategy for the town center. We, as the mayor and council, we've teamed up with WMATA for the Rockville Station master planning. WMATA has put a significant investment hiring a consultant to work with the mayor and council and the community to explore alternatives for how can we make this station a gateway to our city, and how can we spur that core in our town center. So stay tuned for that, and most definitely we most definitely want to have you engaged in that process as it moves along. We also, as a city, have funded to create a brand for the town center. So one of the selling points of the town center, there's uniqueness about it that we want to tap on how do we brand and get the message out there how important town center is as a place to be versus other centers in the region. As you've noticed, we did close Gibbs Street and activating that space and for pedestrian and people, restaurants. There are investments still going on with completion of the 18-story, 250-unit Ansel building with first floor retail. We've had a number of new restaurants and new business leases. So we feel like that there's still strong desire in our town center. Considering revisions to our city sign code, that's important for us to express for especially businesses in the town center to do they have the signage they need to attract people and let people know that they're there. And so we do want to engage those businesses and shopping centers owners to seek that feedback. We also, as always, we are always open as a city to facilitate public-private partnerships and mechanisms for how can we potentially raise funds to continue to invest in our town center. And so that's initial exploration that has begun. Okay, so improving access, the final actions that we want to talk about, access to the town center. You might have heard, but we do have construction plans completed, and we have been working on bidding that and getting a contracting firm to do this road diet. So we are moving with that. I know there could be some delays, but we are committed as a city to make that happen. Vision Zero is so important to the city. We made significant improvements to our pedestrian signals, and we've also provided extra lighting to provide a safer walking around our town center. And another good thing is we're putting investments in the extension of Maryland and Dawson Avenues. We do have clear design plans that were supported by the Mayor and Council, and funding for the construction of the first one, Dawson Avenue, in this fiscal year coming. So another important aspect to while we're here tonight is community outreach and support. We do want to show our commitment, not through just words, but we want to provide the opportunity for developing and continue to establishing relationships with residents, business, and owners. And one of the aspects of that is Trish Evans and her village concept in the town center. I know there's been a number of meetings successfully put on by Ms. Evans, and look forward to continuing that. We are here tonight. One of the questions we're going to ask is to, are you interested in organizing a neighborhood civic association? If so, we as a staff stand ready to help facilitate that. We need people that would want to lead that. We're just on the scenes helping to provide you a forum for talking about that and creating that. And one of the commitments from the mayor and town and city council is to continue these town center forums to respond to needs. As Councilmember Bichella and other council members have talked about, this is important to the success of the city, and we want to listen to business owners and residents and property owners with that. So if you have any general questions related to these actions, we're going to be talking about in our breakout rooms those 3 questions I introduced. But if you have any specific questions about these completed or future actions, now's the time to provide that. If you can raise your hand or make yourself known that you want to ask the question, we have staff here to answer general questions about those. So, Michael, do you see anyone?
Any raised hands at the moment, but let me put some instructions in the chat for everybody.
Okay. While he's doing that, I want to prepare you all for these listening rooms. I know that one of the reasons why we're not doing it in a big group, we want to kind of have a smaller groups to provide great opportunity to listen and hear what you have to say. And so here are the 3 questions. We have staff facilitators that are going to lead you to seek your answers to these questions. Are we on the right track with these completed and future actions? What are other issues that need to be addressed? And then what is your interest in forming a town center association? So we do have some questions in the chat. Michael, could you read those for us?
There's one from Karen Askin. Can you explain what you see as the purpose for a civic association and would it include business?
Yes, that's a good question. One of the things that, and I know that other people might want to chime in from the city. Uh, we've as a city has provided these community associations. We have numerous ones in our city that are volunteers that are recognized as leaders in that community to be a conduit to provide information and also to be a voice to speak on what the needs of that area is. And so one of the important things for a town center association would be to be a voice, trying to represent people that live and work in the town center to help voice those interests in a more direct way. So does anybody else have any additional comments on that as a city? Okay. All right. So Michael, next question.
All right. From Karen Askin again. Concerned that what residents are interested in might be very different from what businesses need.
Yeah, and in fact, that is a really good thing. There most definitely could be an association focused just on residents and an association more focused on businesses. And so we're happy to entertain your what you think needs to be done so that we can provide this information to the mayor and council to give mayor and council to provide direction on that. Michael, others? Okay, there's a road diet question. We'll turn it over to our public works director about what is a road diet.
Thank you, Ricky. Craig Semino, Public Works Director. A road diet is basically when you try to narrow the roadway. Traditionally, you take away vehicle lanes and you try to narrow the way so that it's less appealing for drivers to speed. And typically, when you take away travel lanes, you can provide additional space for other people who use the roadway. For example, sidewalks can be improved if they need to be, bike lanes can be added. And in this case, on North Washington Street in East Middle Lane, we are in fact adding some bike lanes and basically taking 2 lanes in each direction on East Middle Lane and making it 1 lane in each direction with turn lanes where we need to at intersections, and we're eliminating 1 lane on North Washington Street. Hope that answered the question.
Right, there's another question on what are the plans for GIFs and where can we see the road diet and other plans?
Say again, I didn't catch the whole question.
What plans are for GIFs and where can we see the road diet and other plans?
Okay, I'll take the question on Gibbs, and I'm going to ask Ahmed to answer the question on where can they see plans on Gibbs Street after I answer this one. Gibbs Street right now is closed to vehicular traffic to make a way for the streetery, and it has been for a long time. We've been doing this through the pandemic, and Frit and the restaurant merchants have stepped up and put tables out there. Right now, we are negotiating a longer-term plan to leave Gibbs closed. Ostensibly, the recommendation is 5 years at a time, renewable, and that will go to the mayor and council hopefully in the next few months for them to approve that on a longer-term basis. Ahmed, can you answer the question on plans for the road diet?
I will put on the chat box a link to show the plans for the road diets if somebody wants to see.
Ahmed, I'm unable to hear you.
I heard him. Let me repeat it. He says he's going to put in the chat a link to the drawings for the road diet so that those who want to see them will have that link and can view them.
Thank you. There was a question about Arts and Entertainment District. I wouldn't mind for our ready representative Cindy Rivard, Executive Director, to provide some information about her experience with that.
Well, from my understanding, the mayor and council have asked staff to look into creating an arts and entertainment district. It's a state designated area that has some benefits for either arts organizations or artists who would move into that area. In order to create a district like this, it usually takes about 18 months and would involve a lot of community engagement with the art community to figure out what this particular arts district would want to emphasize. And then there are a couple approvals you have to get from the county and from the state. So it's a process to go through, but Towson University annually does a economic development impact study of all of the districts across the city, across the state. And you can, if you Google it, it will come up. And it really demonstrates that investing in an area like this does have a very positive economic impact.
Thank you, Cindy. And I also want to give Karen Askin an opportunity to speak on that, as well as Tim Chestnut, our Recreation and Parks Director, if they have anything to add.
I have nothing to add on that, Ricky. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Karen, you most definitely can speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I think that, being an arts and entertainment district is wonderful. I'm just wondering, it's my understanding that it has much more to do with tax incentives than in actually building an area. Cindy knows way more about it than I do. I think this is a great forum, and I'm concerned about that. I'm not sure that the city has established or knows what is truly unique about Rockville Town Center as a pair, or the square, as opposed to the many other retail. We don't have a niche. We don't have anything right now that makes us particularly compelling as a destination. So I hope that more thought is being given to that. I know Cindy and I think about it all the time. But,
yes. Yes. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate those comments. And I know that we'll take those down as part of our question of other issues we need to explore in our groups. That's an important thing for us to examine. With the branding, we hope there will be some exploration of that. And so there was a question about if there was a town center association, would that mean taxes, additional fees? And that's not what someone wants to do or wants to receive additional taxes. So no, right. This is only about an opportunity to get together with other people, other residents, other businesses, just to communicate and figure out, what are united, what are some of the needs or concerns, be a sounding board for us as a city to make sure we're heading in the right direction to address needs. So with that, I'd like to bring my screen up again to talk about our breakout rooms. And so
hey, Ricky, sorry, I
yes.
don't think you can see my hand.
That's fine. Sorry.
I just wanted, because somebody mentioned taxes and Karen also mentioned tax incentives, want to make it clear that an arts and entertainment district would be providing tax breaks to entities that came into the area. It wouldn't be additional taxes for anybody. And also, to Karen's point, when we talked to the people of the state about it, yes, you can have that incentive component, but also getting to market the area and create that brand identity like we're talking about is probably more important.
Ricky, this is Craig. I don't think you've seen the screen. There's three participants who have their hands raised virtually.
Oh, sure.
B, Judy Rudolph, and someone else at the end. It went away here when you brought this up here, but there's three. You might want to call.
Okay, let me bring this down again. I'm sorry, I missed that. I was having a hard time seeing that. Okay, yes, we have Ms. Rudolph. Would you like to say something?
Yes, two things. One is that the question about would residents and businesses have things to talk about? This whole thing started close to 4 years ago when a group of town center residents wanted to sit down with Frit and talk about the kind of businesses that we would like to see here as residents. At that time, basically, Frit told us that they weren't interested in talking to residents and we should go to Ready. And that started a whole domino effect of trying to find a method of allowing residents, people who actually live here, to have a voice. And I'm delighted that even though it's taken quite a long time, we're finally getting to this point. I think that the point that was made last night at the mayor and council meeting in the briefing from the Metropolitan Washington Council of Government, that they have stopped using the term mixed use development and are using only the term mixed use neighborhood is important, because we are a unique kind of neighborhood, and the city's structure and services and outreach and communication processes to date have not been oriented to the unique needs of mixed use neighborhoods. Quite often residents are not considered, only the businesses are contacted. So the second question that I have is, it looks to me as if there is not a large number of actual residents on the WebEx. I think we're outnumbered by staff and resources. Do we really need breakout rooms, or could we be a group of a whole? Because I think a lot of people are interested in all three of the questions.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry about the confusion. Each group is going to talk about the question. So we also have 52, and I know that probably 10 or 13 of those are staff. But the game plan is to break up into groups, have facilitators. So that way we'll get into more in depth with our residents, and then be able to report out what groups said. So, Tim, do you have something?
Thank you, Ricky. I just didn't want us to miss a question. Looks like the Carters made a comment about some flower boxes. If they could put in chat where these flower boxes are. I don't know who owns them, but we will look into that and make sure that they're not blocking ramps.
Okay. All right. So let me bring up the screen again so that I can.
So Ricky, Philip Staub has been up there a while with his hand up. Why don't we call him?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for having this session. And actually, I put my question into chat and it's been answered. So this is working great. And I look forward to the breakout rooms.
Thank you, Philip. I appreciate you being here. And everyone being here. So let me bring these questions up again to refresh what we're going to talk about. I mean, this is not all that. If there's other things that you want to talk about, well, most definitely. These are broad questions that we thought would stimulate some conversation in the breakout rooms. Again, what are we heading in the right direction with these actions and the investment of time, resources, and initiatives to continue to respond with a goal of helping our town center thrive. And so then we want to, after we go around the virtual room and get answers and have an opportunity for everyone to talk about that question. We'll go on to the next question in each of the rooms. What other issues need to be addressed? I know some people had already brought up issues like that, and then dive in a little bit about the Town Center Association and what are your thoughts about that, and what do you think is needed if the Town Center want to move forward? So with that, Michael, I think due to the number, I think we'll be fine just only having 4 breakout rooms. If we could work toward that, and facilitators, I assume you have your number of which room you're going to. Each facilitator will do what they can to take notes. We also encourage you to write your comments in the chat. We also encourage you to put your email in the chat so that we can keep you informed of what's going on in our town center. So Michael, how would this work? We'll just go ahead and assign people.
So far, we currently have enough for 5 breakout sessions. So let me get this started.
Okay.
And before I start this, I'll give a quick rundown if anybody needs to change rooms. Let me share my screen really quick.
Yeah, Ricky,
Yes.
I had a question first, please.
Sure.
Okay. I'm seeing some indication there might be 20 or less members of the community. Do we want to either go to fewer breakout rooms or maybe even just consider?
Yeah, I think
just
3.
maybe starting out.
Yeah.
Maybe starting out as it was suggested, if there's truly 20 or less that aren't staff or support here, might it be better just to start with maybe it's just some general conversation along these questions, and then maybe if there's a feeling that we ought to break out into more in depth, but
okay.
I'm getting some feedback from folks, and
That's fine. That's fine, Rob. We'll change our tactics, and hopefully everyone will get an opportunity to contribute. So let's stay in this room, and I need Manisha. Could you for us? And also, like I said, if you have any comments on the questions and you'd like to put them in the chat, that would be great as well. So the first question, and please just raise your hand if you want to speak about our first question, which is, are we on the right track for the actions and completed actions and future actions that we've presented here tonight? So who wants to go first? I see Philip's hand.
Sorry about that. That was more just hand up from last time, but I'm happy to jump in to just sort of maybe kick things off a little bit. I think the town is doing a wonderful job supporting the town center. I live just a few blocks away from the town square. I think the closing of Gibb Street, excellent, and the spaces that have been built along there encourage people to linger there and hopefully engage in some business. I think the support through the water park, the skate park helps drive people into that, and that leads me to believe that the town center really does have a theme of welcoming families, because that's who I see around there most often. I think it's a multicultural and representative of our community, which is another selling point. And of course has a very strong arts presence with Viz Arts and their other satellites that they have in that area.
Okay.
The thing that I'm wondering in terms of support is, and this possibly is just that it's not visible to me, is what support does the town provide new business owners? People who decide to give in particular, and I realize I'm focusing a little bit on town center, but they, you know, some new businesses hit the ground running. I mean, Elmer Cat was a hit from day one, and good for them. They probably don't need a lot of support. The previous tenant of that space, Gumbo Yaya, if I remember correctly, they very clearly needed help from the start. They did not seem familiar with how to run a restaurant, and the writing was on the wall very quickly. As I am afraid is the case now with Echo House. Even though we, you know, we have gone there and spoke to the owner, and the owner was all ears and very nice person, just as they were at Gumbo Yaya. It's not clear that they really know what it takes to run a restaurant. So maybe you can speak to that. What sort of proactive coaching and support do you offer, in particular, new business owners? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Philip. And I know that we'll put that down as something we need to explore. I know that, you know, with new businesses, there is a relationship to welcome new businesses to our city. I know I personally, you know, went to some of the new restaurants to talk with the owner and welcome them to our community, but also Cindy Rivard could talk about some of the things they may be doing.
Sure. You know, we also have been talking with the owner at Echo House, and we'll go. Thank you for the comment. We will go out and reach out to him and chat with him about maybe what we can provide for support. One of the programs that is in Rockville that we run from our office is the Maryland Women's Business Center. It's not limited to just helping women entrepreneurs. So we can assist any of the businesses, and we assist several in town center with free one-on-one counseling, business counseling. So if they need help figuring out a business plan, a marketing plan, how to do social media, we also provide a number of workshop series that are useful for our business entrepreneurs. So please feel free to send them to Rockville Economic Development, and we will set them up with some of these resources. We also do have an incentive fund, which is a monetary support. So businesses in the town center can apply for the Small Business Impact Fund. It would need to be something where they would be providing more than just having a business in the city. They have to be doing something for the community. There's an aspect of that for that program. And also they would need to demonstrate how having some funding would help them get to the next level in their business. But we are happy to talk with any businesses about how we can support. And thank you. We'll reach out to Echo House.
Thank you, Cindy. And I'd like to turn it over to Kathy Dantzler, our staff member that to help facilitate the questions and feedback. So, Kathy.
Thank you, Ricky. My name is Catherine Kirk Dantzler. I'm the Director of Communication. Just so we can make sure that we're hearing you, because that's what we're here for, is to make sure you feel like you're heard and we can address some things that the city are doing. First of all, just some housekeeping things, just so we can all be heard. Let's make sure that when we're not speaking, that we mute our microphones. Then that way we can all be privy to the information that's given. Michael, if you could go ahead and scroll through and make sure that microphones are muted when other people are speaking, that would be great. So let's go ahead and start the conversation. I noticed in the chat, we had one comment from Judy Rudolph. Judy says there is also a need to properly orient and onboard new owners of residential property about being landlords within the city of Rockville. And with RTC, 3 major rental properties have changed hands in the last 6 months. Judy, I know that you're on the call. If you wanted to elaborate on that you can.
Okay, I am in the building formerly known as the Upton, now branded as Boulevard 44. It was purchased in late October. In January, the same company acquired the Ansel, the new building. And in addition to that, what was formerly known as the Metropolitan, now rebranded as the Met, is under new ownership, I think since November or December. I can only speak for the experience of myself and my neighbors that the transition has been painful. The owner management company is not familiar with doing business in Maryland, in Montgomery County, in the city of Rockville, and there have been a number of violations of the city landlord tenant code, and basically a number of us are leaving, and this certainly does not help the vitality of town center, and it is heartbreaking for many of us who really chose this lifestyle and to live here. So I think that it would be very helpful if there were an onboarding. For instance, their marketing materials right now say that both Boulevard Ansel and Boulevard 44 are in town square. They don't understand the nuances of the differences between town square and town center. That's also the case actually with Reddy's new Explore Rockville website that also conflates town square and includes the Regal Row shops as being within town square. So there's a branding and wayfinding issue, but we need to do a better job about just explaining to people the history of town center. I actually am very much aware of what was on the ground that I am living on now, that it was once Vincent's Pharmacy and once also was a historic African American neighborhood. That there's a lot that can be done to give people pride in their neighborhood. And I think that there are some serious missed opportunities in terms of building neighborhoods and having the city recognize that people live here and this is a neighborhood.
Thank you, Judy. Ricky, did you want to respond?
No, I know that I've met with had meeting just this past week with Mr. Rudolph, and we're focused on addressing some of those concerns. So let's continue on with additional questions that I see that B has their hand up, and
yes, I see several people have their hands up. So I see that the Carters has had their hand up for a while. Your question?
Yes, thank you. So my name is Neil Carter. My wife, who's not on camera, Lauren Wilson Carter. Judy knows us really well, and we've had several conversations with her. We've had several conversations with the folks who will come in and out of our building because, similar to the case in Judy's building, we have residents who come basically use Rockville Town Center basically as temporary and not permanent. My wife and I have lived in Rockville for close to 7 years. I've been a Montgomery County resident my entire life. That notwithstanding, I think it's important when we talk about the integrity, but also the kind of the makeup of what makes Rockville Town Center thriving. To Philip's earlier point, which I think was great, and some of the also the additional points as well raised in the chat, there really doesn't seem to be, as far as the identity is concerned, it seems like after the meeting about whether or not Dawson's was going to leave Rockville Town Center, it seemed like immediately after that there was a survey put out to what was assumed to be everyone who attended that meeting, and then it was almost like Fritz said, we're going to take that information and then we're going to decide internally what restaurants we are going to market to, rather than saying we're going to consistently have conversations with the residents who actually live in Rockville Town Center and have consistent rolling conversations with not just the residents of Rockville Town Center, but also include the fire department, also include the local PD, also include, other entities, the city, the mayor and the city council and the staff. And I go far back to that meeting because that meeting was also very well attended, and there was a lot of fervor and anger around how Frick kind of, and I raised the point earlier about how they have two properties in the area. They have the property, as commercial real estate owners, they own the property here in Rockville Town Center, and then they also own the property in North Bethesda. And there's a lot more attention paid to that property than ours, just overall. With I'm sure, and it hasn't been raised yet, but with all of the random fire alarms that are not caused by what our leasing office says, oh, well, these are just teenagers who are just setting the fire alarms because they're bored. Well, no, these things are set because the buildings are outdated, and Frick doesn't care about the upkeep of the of the buildings here, and doesn't keep them up to code, particularly if the buildings have been up for a considerable amount of time. And when our leasing companies change, and there aren't conversations with Frick and our leasing companies that include the residents, right? Then there is a breakdown of communication, because then we wouldn't need to have meetings like this one. So I think when we're talking about the identity, yes, it's great that we have a diverse group of restaurants, some of which haven't opened yet. I know Half Smoke is supposed to open at some point this summer. And it's been 2.5 years since Half Smoke was supposed to open. And as someone who is, again, a Montgomery County resident, who, as I'm sure many folks on this call know, like that kind of cuisine is native to this area. So to not have that opportunity to have that kind of restaurant here does this area a disservice to me. And there are so many ways in which I think, in terms of communication, I can't speak for anybody else, but as someone who is married, communication is key. And I think when it comes to the communication, or when it comes to the integrity and the identity of Rockville Town Center, Rockville Town Square, there isn't any communication. It seems like we have to have conversations with the city manager. We may see the mayor or the city council, walking around because they're residents just as much as we are. And it seems like when it comes to coordinations, not just for this meeting, but also for things that are happening out in the town square with bands and things like that. Why aren't the residents coordinated with on who is performing in our town square? Why is the ice rink up for 7.5 months, cutting off foot traffic? If the weather's changing, the ice rink doesn't need to be there. And then the transition to take the ice rink out takes so long that the businesses surrounding and even the library take too long for foot traffic. So I know I've said a lot, and I apologize, but I'm just trying to, but as someone who's been here for 7 years, there's a lot of issues, and those questions don't really speak to what exactly is going on. So
I understand and appreciate your comments, and also appreciate that you feel comfortable enough to say this in this type of forum, and want to make sure that you had an opportunity to speak. Ricky, would you like to go through the 3 questions topics?
Yeah,
would you like to
Kathy, Kathy, I think what I'd like to do is gather all this feedback so that we can actually send out a well thought out reply to all these questions. And so, so if you can put your address in the chat, because I really there's a number of people that haven't had a chance to speak yet, and I really want to make sure they get an opportunity. So
I understand. So there was a question in the chat, Ricky. I don't know if you've seen it, about how the city surveyed residents on what type of businesses that would frequent at the town center, but I think Mr. Carter might have spoke to that as well. Again, some of these answers may not be given tonight, but city staff is online to take very good notes. Hence why it's very important that everyone puts their contact information in the chat.
Where's the chat?
Okay, so if you're on the screen on WebEx, and Michael, you can jump in and explain it as well. There's a little quote button at the bottom right. And if you click on that, you should be able to see the chat, and it'll be at the bottom.
Oh, I'm on the phone and I don't see it. I see what everybody's bottom, but there's a microphone and then there's another little red thing, but nothing. And then there's an X on the right-hand side on the phone. So I'm not on the computer because I just got home from seeing Elvis in the Regal.
No problem.
Okay.
For anybody joined in on the phone, there's three little dots next to the X icon.
Yeah, I
Just
see
press that and the chat will be there.
Stage audio connection, find device, audio only, and WebEx Smart. And that says options.
If I may,
I don't know. Yes.
Director Barker, would you make sure we have your contact information if you would announce your email address prior to the end of this session, or whomever is collecting
Yeah.
additional feedback?
Yeah, Manisha will put her address in the chat so that people could provide additional information so that we can continue to hear what people have to say.
Thank you. And even for those who are not able to see a chat, to actually say it.
Thank you. Okay. Manisha, can you do that?
I did put my email in.
Yeah, but they can't see it. Some people can't see it. Can you just quote it?
I'm sorry, how do I do that?
Oh, just M.
I'm saying, it's M as in Mary, T as in Texas, EWARI at rockwellmd.gov.
Thank you, Manisha.
And I'm JUDIEROSENTHAL at yahoo.com.
Thank you. So any additional feedback on the first question?
What was that? What is it?
This is B speaking.
Okay.
May I ask?
Sure.
Yes. Hello. Hi. So I'm a new resident. I just moved in. Going on 6 months now. Or maybe 7 months. Anyways, my first, I guess more so input rather than a question is, this is my first attendance on this meeting. Was the plan, because this is the first question, right? It's like what we think of the plan. Was this plan published prior? And because the only reason why I knew about this is I signed up for email notification about Rockville because I really want to be involved in the community. Because my partner and I plan to live here long term. But in terms of the plan that is being presented to this meeting, I did not see that ahead of time. So it would have been nice if I could have reviewed it so I have more positive input. And where can I find that? Is there a
Most
link?
definitely, if you can put your email in the chat and your contact information, we can follow up directly with you. And also anyone that puts their email address in the chat will be able to send a copy of that, the latest information about that. So I just spent the time highlighting, but there are more details there. So
I don't think I gave you the right address. The JUDIE, it didn't come out that way. Yeah, JUDIE Rosenthal at yahoo.com. It doesn't seem.
Can I ask a question?
Okay.
Okay, so my concern is obviously we're already aware of inflation, possible recession looming over us, and all of us families are getting squeezed. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. My family and I, we live currently over in the Fenestra building right now. We're actually in a position to where we're actually having to move to another unit because it's too expensive. So what can we do as a community to ensure that the residents aren't being pushed out and having to go to other, like cities just to move there, and we can ensure residency? Because I've been here for almost 10 years and I'm really not trying to move anywhere. So what can be done regarding that?
Good question.
So yeah, I'm not sure. Does anyone other on the staff want to respond? but if not, we can most definitely take that information and dig into it and send this information out in response to that question.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Is this meeting being recorded so that you guys are actually being able to review all these comments, or someone's taking notes of?
It's somebody's taking notes. So we're recording it, and we're also copying the chat.
Does anyone know what's happening to the Gordon Biersch place here?
Yeah, I would need to turn that over to maybe Cindy Rivard if she knows.
At some time ago, the whole Gordon Biersch chain went into bankruptcy nationally. So I know that it's been tied up in bankruptcy proceedings. I don't know the actual point that they are in the process. So we can reach out to Federal Realty and see if we can get an update to provide to people.
Yeah. Councilmember Shella has his hand up.
Yes, I just want to give my opinion on the rising rents. And for a long time, not only Rockville, but Montgomery County has, it's been very difficult to allow residential developments. And we had in last night's mayor and council meeting an extremely informative and productive presentation from the Council of Governments. And since the Great Recession, the number of residential units that have been produced in this whole region has just, and the reason you're seeing such high rents, in my opinion, is that there's so many people applying for these apartments. And it's now become a long-term problem of supplying enough units. And, even though we have several new residential developments in the last several years, it's not been enough to keep up with the demand. And so that's a longer term issue. It's not going to help you in the short term. I attended recently a presentation on the book Fixer Upper by Jen Schutz just last things, rent. One of the issues in town center and town square specifically is, do we have enough residential units to support this area and to be vibrant? That's a very big question. One reason to reopen the master plan for town center. So I just wanted to give that my own personal perspective on it.
Thank you, council member. So just want to check in on that first question, just see if the city's on the right track. I know some people need some more information about that, and they can respond after we send it to them. But the items that we discussed about the road diet, the branding, and other things, are we as a city moving in the right direction from your opinion? So any comments on that? Any closing comments on that one? Yeah, I can't see. So anybody?
I don't see anyone. I don't see anyone on the other pages with their hands up. Ricky.
Okay, sounds good. So, yeah, go ahead.
I actually had a comment. I think that, in all fairness, the city has done every single thing it could possibly think of to do to try to address the challenges of Rockville Town Square itself and the area around it. And I'm not sure that the city by itself can solve these the problems. You are, you have what you have. You have the library as an anchor. You have you've had a terrible economy, then COVID. I think that you're on the right track, but I'm just not sure that any of this is going to be enough. I think Frit is exhausted, and they don't care anymore. And I'm not sure that they think that it's worth investing the amount of money that it would take. I think that the city is on the right path, but I'm not sure you have the right partner. I'm not sure there is a right partner out there, but I give enormous credit to the, to the body politic and all of the staff for throwing, everything up against the wall that you can think of, to do that.
Thank you, Karen. And you're right. I mean, there's the economic and people that own the property, marketing the property, that's outside of our influence. But I appreciate the endorsement that the city is moving in the right direction. So what about other issues that that need to be addressed? I know we had a couple that have come up. Any additional things that are not covered that people want to talk about? Okay. All right.
Do we have community gardens? So I saw that there's community gardens all around Montgomery County, some parts of Rockville. Um, how can we incorporate like public food basically? So when I lived in Europe, like in Finland, people grow berries on the street and anybody can access that. Fruit trees can be accessed. Can we do something like that for our community?
Yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Tim Chestnut, our Recreation and Parks Director, to answer that question.
The city does have community gardens at numerous locations around the city. Of course, the number one challenge for doing something like that in town square or town center is actually having some open dirt that we could use to plant things in. But as far as anything you could grow on your balcony or something like that, I mean, that would be up to your HOA and your apartment or condo board. But the challenge for us in town center really is there's no open space. But I hear you. We would like to have more community gardens.
Right. No, I see what you're saying, but like if you were to combine your plants with the road diet, saying like, okay, let's make the roads narrower so that we can provide space for pedestrian walkways and etc. Yeah, so you can consume some of that space and, so again, just using berries an example, it doesn't require a whole lot of dirt, as you called it. It doesn't, and it'll grow anyways. So things of that nature. But yeah, of course, fruit trees would require more. So, like in the town square center, like you find a small plot of square there and then plant a tree.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We're going to put that down and explore that. So what about the Carters had a question about the notices about road closures have stopped and just want to get any kind of feedback from staff about that and how people are informed about road closures. Anyone want to grab that? Tim or Mr. Simno?
What kind of road closures are we talking about? Events or are we talking about construction?
What's the chat is the race last weekend.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Let's just go ahead and answer for both.
I will try to answer for both from the perspective of recreation and parks. We don't have anything to do with road closures for construction, so that's the best I can do on that one. As far as the events and those sorts of things, yeah, we have experienced some poor communication from our own standards, not from lack of efforts, but from, as Ms. Rudolph has mentioned, several of the contact points are no longer the same contact people. So we are having to work harder to get updated contact information. And we will be working with the condo boards and the resident groups to get that information out in a more effective manner.
Thank you. And Craig, you want to talk about the construction closures?
Yeah, thank you, Ricky. We very rarely close roads during construction. The one that we have closed right now is Mount Vernon. And when that happens, when there's a total road closure, we do mailing notifications to the neighboring people. We put it on our website and we notice it out. Most often we have lane closures and such where construction's taking place. For example, a paving contractor, and it's kind of rolling closures. We announce our paving schedule on our website, and we also make sure that we put in our permits to contractors who are authorized to do work in the right of way that they cannot do work during certain hours, usually the AM, PM peak hours. And then if there's any special requirements around other times, we limit that. So to answer your question, when there's total road closures, they are announced to the neighborhood. During construction, when there's lane closures, the best source is the city website.
Okay, thank you. And so let me read some of the other chats before I get to you, Mr. Rudolph. Another comment from A is, has any consideration given to farmers market to move to the town square or have a smaller version in the middle of the week? Any comments
I
on
can
that?
answer that one, Ricky.
Sure.
Every couple of years, we get this question about moving the farmers market to town square. Unfortunately, it just will not fit in its current size and scale. So then that leads to your second question of a smaller one. The challenge there becomes the farmers. The ones that we are working with and contracting with sell most of their product on the weekend, and they don't particularly have an interest in a second one during the week. But we will absolutely keep that in mind because it's sort of like the community gardens. I don't think we can have enough farmers markets.
You've had it before, though, right in front of Dawson's, and there were people there during lunch hour.
That wasn't the city.
So that was Dawson's, I guess.
That wasn't the city.
Got a couple.
It was not Dawson's. They had the stands, the fruit and vegetable stands. Nothing to do with it, except for the bar that they had.
Well, let us look into that and see what that was about. So we've got some significant issues about pedestrian safety. Philip has say he walks and bikes a lot. Please put cameras and with fines to enforce pedestrian crossing and bike lanes, considering improving our bike lane network. And then someone said, I agree with Philip, drivers never stop at Falls Road and Montgomery Street. So Craig or Ahmed, would you like to take that of what we're doing as a city?
Yes, we have actually, I think you meant Great Falls and Monument. This actually a location we put flashing beacons last year. It's always challenging to get people to stop. A lot of drivers are not paying attention, but we are working with our police on enforcement, and Vision Zero is a part of what we are doing that has enforcement and education for the drivers and pedestrians. And for the bike lanes, I think if you look at the link that I put for, I put it at 729. If you go back and click on this link, you will see our plans to put bike lanes in town center on North Washington as well, and on East Middle Lane, and those are protected bike lanes. So those are also a part of what we have in our bikeway master plan. We added bike lanes on Maryland Avenue a few months ago. So we keep doing what we can to add bike facilities and have them protected as much as possible to fulfill this bikeway master plan.
Yes.
I just like to add that in addition to that, we're currently working on a pedestrian master plan with the RPAC, the Pedestrian Advocacy Committee, and others. And secondly, that the mayor and council just recently provided more funds, more funding from some tax duplication money to up the funding for missing sidewalk links. So there is a lot happening on that front right now.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Got another comment?
What about safety in the Rockville Town Square with the kids on the skateboards that are zooming, running by here? They're going to knock somebody over any day now. There's no
most definitely want to share that with our city police department and see if there's things that can be done to help with that. So
a lot of people that moved in here across the street that come here now, and they just go flying by with no regard about pedestrians in the square.
Yeah, that's really critical because we we do want to provide the safest environment for our pedestrians, to make it a very safe and walkable town center.
Right.
There's a comment about asphalt art and murals to start Rockville Metro, the underpass, and the square, and engaging the public to make an area dynamic and exciting, while addressing the pedestrian safety, and also just have some great ideas with events to do something like that. So thank you for that comment. Yes, Ms. Rudolph.
Several things. With regard to the street closings, there's a notice that's being put on social media repeatedly this week. I first saw it on Nextdoor about Maryland Avenue and Courthouse Square and East Montgomery from Washington Street to Helen Hennigan being closed on Thursday, July 7th, which is a Thursday, from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. because of the state police 100th anniversary. It appeared only on Nextdoor. The explanation gives people alternative points of entry for M&T Bank and for the Cambria Hotel. There is no mention or recognition of the fact that the main entrance to the Victoria condos and the main entrance and loading dock and freight elevator to Boulevard 44, which are significant residential properties, will be closed during that, business day. There are people in my building who had scheduled move-outs that day, whose moving trucks will not have access. The management of our building was not notified, and the public notice doesn't even mention that these two residential properties are impacted. For the people, this is somewhat related to the fact that historically Parks and Recreation has often blamed changing the nature and locations of certain city events, such as hometown holidays, away from town center because they say there are complaints from town center residents. The fact is that my lease has a mandatory addendum that acknowledges that I live in a mixed-use neighborhood, and there might be closings and there might be inconveniences. So if people complain, they should be, shame on them if they aren't reading their leases, shame on their landlords if they aren't putting that notification in. On the other hand, when closures are going to happen, there has to be notice. Right now, the city does not have a single point of responsibility for maintaining accurate point of contact information for property managers. There have been violations of the zoning ordinance because of that, because people in my building were not notified of certain zoning meetings. The notification for this meeting tonight went to somebody at Comstock Corporate who has no idea that this building even exists. So there are a lot of things come back to the fact that the city does not have and is not maintaining and is not honoring its obligation to have accurate contact information and to reach out in terms of communicating with residents.
Okay, thank you. That's real important feedback, and we need to take that to heart and figure out and be able to answer that question about what we do and how we're potentially changing in the future to make sure that happens. I know that there was the manager of Ansel was on the listserv that got the notice. So we are trying to do our best, but we can always improve. So thank you. And then also the big notice about closures and how it impacts residents. We need to look into that event and see specifically what happened on that to not provide the adequate notice that's needed in advance. So let us look into that and get back to you.
I have a question.
Sure.
Thank you. So I'm going to tell you that I moved out here about 14 years ago as a federal employee. Specifically love this area because of the sense of community, because I heard there were parades and there was activity and there were lots of kids and it just the sense of the community. And I moved away once because I think this the shops, they were closing down all the time. It was just me and my son and tiny little guy. And we moved away and then we came back because we thought, God, we really missed that sense of community. And then we moved away again for some other reasons, family related. And then we came back. And I got to tell you, over the past 14 years, and now I have, family, larger family and so forth, but it just feels, and just to second what so many of the other residents have said, we feel a little left out. And I don't know if you can just take that and put it in the notes or maybe relay it in some way, but I got to tell you, this is the first time in over these many years that we are actually seriously considering going up towards the Rio, that community area, or North Bethesda, because it just feels like the businesses have left. I don't even know. We specifically came back because I like the idea of having the pharmacy near here. I love that the Walgreens is here now. The CVS is gone. I don't see as many concerts here in the town square. We live literally, I'm looking at the town square. I live here I'm looking at the town square literally as I'm speaking with you. I'm seeing the kids outside and everything. We don't see the concerts that were once here, when this was vibrant. And it feels like, the thing about the road closures, it's a surprise every week, honestly. We don't know. We just know that it's going to happen, but we don't know where to look. I went onto the website. I went into the city of Rockville to try to find out where these events are. Couldn't find anything. Ended up finding some kind of news website that was totally outdated from 2018, back in the heyday or whenever things were more organized. I don't know. But I have to second what a lot of these residents are saying. And we're the spouse of the gentleman who said that we're feeling like we're getting pushed out, because I specifically was the one that continuously said, let's go back. And so 3 times back here now. And this is the first time I have to tell you, and we fell in love with the town square. And as a federal, I have to tell you, this is the first time that I'm really feeling that we joined this meeting tonight with the hope that you're doing more than just writing this down, and that there's going to be some website up in hope that as residents we can go to as a city, and that we can see what the events are and what was promised once, because my understanding is that there's some kind of collaboration between the city and that there should be activity here, and also just to keep us updated. But anyway, I don't want to take any more time, but I wanted to tell you that I second what many of the neighbors are saying and feeling that feeling of community. If you can do what you can in the arts and keeping us informed, we would very much appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, that's a big theme, is ensuring that you all are informed. We most definitely do not want to lose residents to leave Rockville. So we want to dive into those issues you brought up. And Tim, do you have anything about events in the town square?
There was a time in the town square, because I've been here 15 years, that they had kiosks set up in the square, and they had the local restaurants would set up food stands during the concerts, which now they're only doing on Fridays. They cut out the salsa. I don't know if this is because of COVID or what, but and the concerts they have are just very strange. They're not having sing-alongs or kind of fun kind of people singing good voices that they have at the Rio or at other places. So just an instrumental or something, but there's a lot missing as far as the activities, like she said, and the concerts and the food displays. They just put out beer and wine, and that's it. That's the extent of the food. I think the businesses would do better if they set up something. I don't know why they stopped.
Okay, well, that's good feedback. It's something we need to also dive into and figure that out. So, Tim, do you want to add about concerts?
The only thing I could really add to that, Ricky, is that we are working with Federal Realty to make sure that they do honor the commitments on the terms of the events. And they are slowly but surely filling up the calendar, but I do hear you. And I will share that with them.
Who has gone even farther? Who is
good?
Yeah, go ahead, Mayor.
What we heard today was she nailed.
That happened quickly. Sorry about that. I just want to say to everybody that we are hearing you and we are writing down the comments that are in the chat for those of you that are putting them there. I think the other thing I want to say, and I didn't say it in the beginning because this is about you. This isn't necessarily about what we're thinking. It's about what our community is thinking. Years and years ago in the 1990s, the then mayor and council did a Imagine Rockville visioning process. And out of that came several committees, and one of them was the Rockville Bicycle Committee. One of the other ones was the Town Center Action Team.
Today?
Karen Askin's point, the Town Center Action Team was made up of anybody who wanted to be involved. It was community members. It was residents of Rockville, because back then we didn't really have many people living in the town center. It was business owners, it was property owners, and it was a fabulous, there are a few people maybe on this call who would remember it, but you know, some days we had 100 people, some days we had 50. It was the way that the Rockville visioning process went forward. I'm not saying that Town Square turned out exactly the way it should have, but it was a very engaged and lively group of people. We met once a month. It was volunteer. You didn't have to sign in or commit to going. You could drop in, and really the core group stuck with it for over 10 years. Councilmember Prashela was in it for a little bit towards the end. And I just want to say, let's start a town center. You can call it whatever you want. It doesn't have to be Town Center Action Team, can be whatever it needs to be, but it should be everybody who is a stakeholder in the town center. And through that group, you can then help us know what we want what you want, what we want in the town center. I think Mark, Councilmember Prashela, said it very well. The town center is everybody's town center, whether you live in it or you live around it. Town center is for all of us. So let's make it work and let's find ways. The comments about the farmer's market, doesn't have to be a big farmer's market. Maybe it could be a few vendors that come in once or twice a week, maybe different ones. Let's find a way to do it. Let's work with our other partners. You know, there's that vacant space that sits at the corner across from Starbucks. Maybe we could work a deal where we could get, you know, use of that twice a month or something. So I want everyone to be, I'm sorry, just let me finish. I want everyone to walk away from tonight with the understanding that we are listening and we are here to really support our town center in the best way that we can. And we don't want people to feel that we're not listening. I do agree with a lot of the comments in the chat. I think we have some partners that are better partners than others, but it's up to us to make that happen. So please share your ideas. I know Kathy has done a great job of trying to collect all that, Manisha as well. Ricky's trying to lead the thing, but just I'm trying to turn this back into a positive and not just a dump, because more gets done when we're working together than when we're fighting each other. So that's really what I wanted to say.
Well said, Mayor, and that kind of leads us into the next question about what you suggested about an association or whatever we want to call it. Wanted to get some ideas about that. You know, maybe Trish could talk about the village concept that we're doing, and then how that's a little bit different than an association that we're talking about.
Well, thank you, Ricky. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Trish Evans. It says Patricia, but we haven't figured out how to change that from Patricia to Trish. I am a village facilitator for the city, and I have had the pleasure and opportunity to work with many of your neighbors. If not you, I know Judy Rosenthal, you're on the call, and several other names I see. And I do think that connectivity is really important for Town Center, because you know, it's there's a wonderful video out of Canada where you get in your elevator, you hit up, and you close your door in the hallway, and there's not a lot of interaction. And I think strength comes from connecting with your neighbors, and it doesn't solve the business problems, but if you are connected, then you're going to have a lot more power, if you will. And I don't mean to make it seem like it's a brokerage, but there's safety in connectivity. And I don't know your name. I know it was listed as the farmer's market person, and the person who has been here multiple times. I would love to talk with you because there are people who are in your exact situation, who've got young ones, who are just trying to figure out, okay, how do we find our space? So I think Town Center has enormous potential to connect. It doesn't help with the brick and mortar things. That is more of a civic association function. That is not to say that there can't be crossover and collaboration, but I think that residents connecting has incredible strength for a community.
Can we get more chairs out at the square? There's not enough benches and chairs. I don't know if people are stealing the stuff or what. There's no
Okay.
sit
Yeah,
out there anymore.
we must definitely will put that down as a concern. And it looks like we had a few suggestions about a specific website directly to the town center to be a clearinghouse for information. So we'll put that down and explore it.
Ricky,
Yes.
I think that's a good idea as far as the website, even if it's a subpage. But I wanted to take an opportunity to announce to the group and share here that your advisor to the city manager for diversity, equity, and inclusion, Mr. Tyree Davis, is on this evening with us. And so working in hand in hand, not only with city leadership, but then also with the community, we have this added voice to help us make sure that we are truly inclusionary on our efforts for all that Town Center, Town Square represents as far as its residents and persons. So if you don't mind, I'd like to offer Tyree the floor.
Good evening, everyone. As Deputy City Manager Judge mentioned, my name is Tyree Davis IV, and I will be serving as the advisor to the City Manager for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I am, and keeping it very brief, I am someone who believes in collaboration, but especially for this work that is diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I too will put my email in the chat and read it. Or share it so that you can take note of that. But I would love to hear from you all. And that email is T as in Tyree Davis, DAVIS, the number 4 at rockvillemd.gov. And I'll put it in the chat as well.
Thank you, Tyree. And one of the beautiful things about Tyree and me is that we get to experience Town Center firsthand. So I won't completely spill the beans in terms of where we live, but we are on this journey for making Town Center, Town Square a place for everyone, a thriving place for everyone firsthand.
Okay. Well, thank you, Angela and Tyree. Thank you so much that is so important to our city and the incredible diversity that the city has and will continue. And so I wouldn't mind if those people on the call on the website, if just to get a kind of a about are you interested in some kind of an association in the town center? If you could just put in the chat your answer to that question, that would be awesome. So that at least we get a kind of a feeling. Then I'd like to talk a little bit about any of your ideals about what you'd like to see in the city supporting that. So, all right. So, yeah, I've got several that have said that yes. So those that have said yes, can you provide a little bit more insight about what you'd like to achieve with an association, and then how do you think the city could help you? Any thoughts about that?
And I don't know, Ricky, it might be, this is a lot to take in. It might be a lot to ask how we think the city can help.
I know we had talked about us organizing and setting meetings just to engage community and engage a communication and a dialogue about this, and so we most definitely are happy to hold those meetings and try to engage the people so that there is like Trish said, a sense of a belonging and a sense of from the town center standpoint. So
I mean, I think one of the things that I've heard a lot tonight is about communication, and this Rockville Town Center, Rockville Town Square, it's a lot of very complicated ownership, a lot of apartments. The Viz Arts building is a commercial condo, which is really unusual. It might help to try to get together one more, another time to think about what are the things that people want to really focus on, not bite off more than we can chew. I like the idea. I mean, I think that tonight there's an awful lot of staff, and that's great. As someone who chairs the Cultural Arts Commission, your staff is amazing. But if you want this to be driven from the bottom up, which is I think what the mayor was talking about, then you got to get more bottom here.
Right.
And we're very top heavy tonight, and that's really inspirational to the people who are here to hear the commitment that the city has. But I think we need another meeting like we had, maybe in person. It's nice outside. You got Gibbs Street closed. We can meet outside. Yeah.
Right. No, it's a good point. So, we've gotten a lot of great comments in the chat, and like the mayor said, this is really critical that we hear from you. But you're right, Kieran. We need even more engagement, and there's some talk about a survey to really reach as many people as we can. I know we have engaged Rockville, that might be a possibility. But Kathy Dantzler, you would like to talk a little bit about our website?
As I begin to develop and understand the needs of the community, I'm finding different outreach tools that the city has that we can utilize a little more. And when it comes to town center, we have one tool called Bang the Table, which is geared toward an engagement site that is an interactive site that can be developed between to open up the lines of communication and provide more constant information about center. I can definitely look into that, because the same thing that I'm hearing from everyone is that you feel like we're not communicating, or we're just misstepping on communication. And that's something we don't want to do, because like everyone knows, communication is key to any type of success. So I just wanted to let everyone know that I am definitely going to work with Ricky and his team to try to see what else can we do to make sure that, number one, that our staff is doing it and we can update the content as needed, and it doesn't get stale or misinformed or miscommunicated. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that and was aware that it is something that is on our mind as a communications team. And in the very, very near future, we will be discussing how to make it a reality.
So thank you, Kathy. And Karen, I just want to, I appreciate you doing a shout out to the staff here. We, as you see by our presence here, we are committed and supportive of this town center. We do want to tap on ideals, but also work as a team effort as a city with the city manager, mayor, and council to keep moving forward. And like the mayor said, and continue to move forward in a positive direction, but as a team. And so we are committed to that as an organization. So Karen.
Well, I was going to say, I had tried to get Cindy to do a shout out for Visit Rockville. When I first moved to this area, we had, the Gazette. There were local newspapers, and there was more of a sense of that you knew what was going on, and Cindy has done an amazing job creating this partnership with Visit Montgomery, which really can, I think if there were more people who knew about it, really could help, like that when there are things going on, people would know about it. And she's worked really hard. I'm surprised she's being so quiet about it.
Yeah. So Cindy, would you talk a little bit, and then I've got the Carters want to say something.
Sure, I'll be brief. Yeah, so I put the link in the chat. It's called Explore Rockville, and somebody had some good comments about couldn't we do more with social media? So there are TikToks, Instagram, and I think Facebook on that. And I know the city does a lot with social media too. So we are getting better at that, as you know, despite some of our older people here. We've got staff members who are very into it. So the Explore Rockville site just launched, so it's new. Judy, I saw your comment about some tweaks that could be made, and as usual, we welcome your edits. But yes, it's a new tool. It has a calendar of events, which will be able to do more than just the city events. So we presented to the Arts Council, any organizations that have plays or music and things like that, they can get those events on the calendar. And it's also a directory of businesses that are the businesses that you would do local tourism or, want to go do if you're a resident. So restaurants, retail, if you need a hotel, all of those are listed there. And we're building that directory now. So it's not all built out and complete yet, but we're working on it. One of the projects that we're going to work on this year at Ready, Rockville Economic Development, is articulating more of what town center means within the context of this Explore Rockville tool. So we would love to get engagement from all of you. I took a lot of good notes about the importance of family, the importance of community, and why you have chosen to be here. All of that is really important to us as we're trying to figure out how we're presenting town center.
How about bringing back the movies? We used to do that once a week.
That's great. We've got that written down too to explore.
The
So
movie.
yeah, I also want to say it's not only the city staff, as you can see, Cindy Rivard and Rochelle Wilson are here, as well as Susan Prince was here to show that Ready is committed to join with the city and the mayor and council to address these concerns as a team. So the Carters wanted to say something.
Yeah, first, just to piggyback off of Kathy's earlier points about some housekeeping, it's clear that some residents didn't pay attention to that because they like to speak when they're not called on. But in terms of and also remaining unmuted despite not being called on either. But in terms of the association meeting, my thought process is having stakeholders who are from the community, from the city, from FRIT, and then also finally from the commercial real estate businesses as well, having them all at the table at once, rather for this association, and making it a full-on community rather than just having just the residents or just the businesses or just FRIT or just the city. Because because I think that's part of the lack of communication is that when we were talking about, yes, I think we can as residents organize, but if we don't have the businesses at the table, then that doesn't help. If we know that it sounds like the city is going to be a part of the conversation, obviously, but if FRIT isn't there, and if, for instance, the private company that owns the parking, for instance, if they aren't at the table or a part of the conversation or a part of the association via by proxy or something else. I happen to sit on one Montgomery County Commission, and we have agency representatives, we have county staff, and then the rest are made up of residents. So I think maybe deciding on how many, maybe it's one Frick representative, maybe it's one, maybe it's, have some designated slots for some of the commercial real estate businesses, and then the rest can be residents, and the remainder can be staff, so that there's some kind of consistent, group of stakeholders consistently a part of the conversation. And obviously, it doesn't have to be a set number for each particular stakeholder group, but having some kind of decorum and organization around everyone represented, so it doesn't just feel like there's just one group represented or two groups represented and everyone is not at the table.
Ricky, you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Carter. And you're describing the community aspect. It's not just residents; it's the residents and property owners and business owners, and moving the community forward from your perspective involves everybody at the table. So, Mr. Despirito, you've got your hand raised. Our city manager.
Yes, thank you, and I also want to thank the Carters and others who've been expressing very important opinions. Judy. Judy, you had asked a question in the chat a little while back that I thought was important. So if you don't mind, I'd like to circle back. And it had to do with safety, security. I think it referenced garages and perhaps elsewhere. And I believe I do have Chief Victor Brito has called in to the meeting. So I wondered if you have some concerns, if you don't mind, please repeating what you had expressed in the chat, because I think that's an important subject. We'd like to, number one, listen, and number two, perhaps Chief would have some perspective on your concerns.
3 years ago, I think in March of 2019, when the mayor and council first acted upon some of the ULI report, a young woman who to that point was unknown to me, who lived on Gibbs Street, talked about feeling unsafe walking her dog at 11 o'clock at night, right outside her home, because of some of the drunks coming out of what was then Bar Louie. So this is, it's been a bit of a problem, but many of us knew what we were getting into in a mixed use neighborhood. I, until this last year, felt very secure because the resident portion of our garage has secure doors. I felt that the front desk and the building was locked, and there was someone at the front desk, and only certain people could be admitted. But more and more, both with the change in management in my building, more mechanical problems with the garage being left unsecured, but also, and I think that Chief Brito might be able to talk about whether this is perception of reality. It seems to me as if there's more going on the street in terms of unsheltered people, many of whom clearly suffer from mental illness. Lots of teenagers, pot smoking, both in our garage areas and to some extent in our buildings. Some graffiti incidents, some of it possible hate or bias related in our building, and evidently there was a similar incident in the Palladian. In the last year or so, I have begun to feel personally unsafe, both in the neighborhood and within my building.
Okay, let's turn it over to our chief of police.
Good evening, Judy, and thank you for your comments. Let me go to your last question about hate or bias comments. I think you're aware we were never brought into that. We were never made aware of any of those issues. We have not seen anything that we've gotten from the Palladian. When it comes to perception, certainly the data doesn't reflect any widespread specific issues regarding criminality. Certainly, we have unsheltered people throughout the town center area and throughout Rockville. And we try always to provide the resources and the services to those individuals through the county and through other services. Being unsheltered is in itself is not a crime, but ultimately, some of those individuals that suffer from mental health illness, we try to provide the services correctly and then address those issues when we have criminality with law enforcement aspects under current law. But again, we always want to hear from our community. We respond to every call all the time. And when those issues happen, we want to be involved in it. Individuals smoking, marijuana in parking garages. Again, if there's criminality afoot, criminality is decriminalized. The state's attorney's office will very rarely, prosecute a possession case. But we will respond and we will address it either with whatever applicable enforcement action we can and or referral, but try to get that behavior and that negative behavior to stop. And we will always do that. Contacting us is very, very important to allow us to address everything. We pride ourselves on the ability to handle any call, whether small or large, and whatever the perception may be. If people are feeling uncomfortable, allow us to intervene and take the appropriate action. But we will always do those things. We're always available, and we're always responsive. So, you had a lot, a lot there talking about internal things, but I will certainly address those things, and we have been incredibly responsive, and we'll continue to do that and take the applicable enforcement action that is required and that we're allowed under the law.
Chief Brito, thank you very much for your leadership on that. So, Judy, you have a closing comment on that?
Yeah, I really think that this also points to the suggestion that Neil Carter has made about that we need a group that's inclusive of all of the different components.
Okay.
Because I think that some of this has to do with onboarding the property managers and perhaps some of the retail owners who are more concerned with image than dealing with some of these incidents. They don't want people to think that this isn't a nice place to live. So I think that being able to sit down as a group and to have the chief and Mr. Davis talk to to everybody about the city's commitment to if you see something, say something, whether it's a possible bias incident or a possible graffiti crime or smoking in a non-smoking building, no matter what you're smoking. I think again it points to a more inclusive group rather than just focusing on a residents organization.
Well, thank you, Judy, and I want to respect everyone's time. I want to express, and I know other city staff and mayor and council and city manager really appreciate the time. Lots of good information, good ideas, and things that we've got our work cut out for us in the sense of as a staff team and ready to get together and then provide that information to mayor and council to get direction on our next steps. So I'd like to turn it over to the mayor and to see if she has any closing comment, as well as the other two council members and the city manager.
Ricky, you always catch me off guard. And that's okay. That's all right. That's part of the job, I guess. But I don't really have any closing comments, except I want to thank everybody. I want to thank staff for being here. You've given up a beautiful evening, and you always do. And I thank you for listening. I think we've all heard a lot of very good ideas, of very needed outreach that we can do a better job of. I want to thank our community for coming to this and being so honest, because that's what it's going to take. And I hope that some of you will get together and form a neighborhood association, whatever you want to call it. Mark is right. There's no fees. It's just a group of people of whatever mechanism you want to do that get together and decide that this is what you want. You want to represent, talk about, lead, bring back ideas to the city. I will tell you that the Town Center Action Team was instrumental, not always good, but instrumental in many, many good things that we did. And Jim Waslick, who is also on this call, was the liaison at most of the point to the mayor and council and the city staff. And that's a really good thing to do. And I encourage you, let's pull that together. It shouldn't be city-led. It needs to be community-led. We are there to hear from you. You are there to bring us your ideas, your wants, your needs, and we want to hear that. I'm in Town Center every single day. I'm there a little bit more often now as my daughter and son-in-law and grandbaby moved back to Rockville from Pennsylvania. And so I see it now from a little bit different perspective from a little person. And I put in the chat about a library event that we went to, and we need more of those. So thank you to the person who wrote in about using our pavilion there, the Dawson Pavilion. Let's do more for families and other people. So thank you all so much for giving your time, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thanks
Thank you,
everybody for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Shella or Councilmember Dr. Miles.
This is Mark Pershela, and I just want to say that both Mayor Bridget Newton and myself got into city politics through the Civic Association route, and that to have a successful association, neighborhood association, takes work, and it cannot, city can facilitate, city can attend, city can provide meeting space, but it takes a lot of grassroots work, and that requires several people to step up and take the time. There's a challenge in Town Center that we don't have in single family homes, and that is people are in big buildings and you don't always have access. Whereas in a single family neighborhood or townhome neighborhood, we can knock on doors. That's not always possible in your situation. So you have to devise a method of communicating with your residents. I fully agree that it'd be great to have a body that represents all the interests, but it's going to take some work, and the city can't do it for you. But we really, I think all of us would just love it, terribly love it, if there was an association from Town Center, Town Square. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Pichello, for the direct experience from you and the mayor on the commitment needed, and that we're here as a staff to facilitate and not lead. So, Councilmember Dr. Miles, do you have any closing comments? Okay. All right. So I'll turn over to the city manager.
Yes, thank you, Ricky. And I'll just echo the appreciation for all of you for taking a really good chunk of your time today to think about this, to plan for being here, to participate, to share your passion and your ideas with us. Just wonderful ideas that are emerging here. And you have my sincere commitment on behalf of myself, my staff, and I know the mayor and council. We take all of this seriously, and that there's so much here that we can and will follow up on. I would like to commit that we will do this again, and we will do it again this fall. Whether it's September, October, we'll announce far in advance, and we'll do lots and lots of outreach. But we don't want too much time to go past, because I think there's some things here that we want to further develop and bring back to you for your reaction. There's other things here we can deal with as action items immediately, and we will. And we'd like to get some feedback on if you've been able to see the difference. So thank you again, sincerely, for your time and your passion. And we look forward to talking to you the next time soon.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Spirito. And in closing, someone had mentioned about, most cities don't do that. Well, we're not most cities. And the mayor and the council can clearly say that. When would the mayor give you her direct line to call? And also all the other people that put their email and contact information, they truly are committed to hear from you and want to do this as a team. So with that, it's 9 o'clock on the dot. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, and have a great night.